Today we're going to take a deep dive into the Celsius network led by serial entrepreneur Alex Mashinsky. Diving into this public pool, we undoubtedly find many gems, but we also find some turds and some caca-logs. The deeper we dive, the poopier it gets. Mashinsky wrote the first ever patent on VoIP, voice over IP, in October of '94, and is one of the people who made it possible for the world to use the internet rather than telephone networks to communicate globally, much cheaper or even for free. He's been a very successful businessman overall, raising over $1 billion from VC investors and exiting with over $3 billion. He now says,
I spent 50 years taking from society. I did very well as an individual, and now this is me giving back.
Mashinsky is an advisor to Siren Labs, which was recently found to have greatly mismanaged ICO funds, having raised $158 million. Now, this shouldn't necessarily point to Mashinsky being involved. It's just something to note. When I heard Mashinsky say things like this,
what are the exchanges doing that you're concerned about and you think is unsustainable?
So, first, I understand what they're doing. I understand why they're doing it. It's just that what I don't understand is all the people that give them their coin. So, almost every exchange out there front runs its own customers. So, when they see the orders coming in, they know what the book looks like. They know where everybody else's position is. And they know that the price of the Bitcoin or the Ether is going to go either up or down. And then they take action before they execute the orders of their own customers. So,
to make money.
Right.
Okay.
So, to enhance their own profits, right? So trading their own account on the information that they have from their own customers, not acting in the best interest of their own customer. So several exchanges, I'm not going to name names, got caught shorting coins that they listed. So they would basically come to you as an ICO and say, hey, list with us. We'll charge you whatever, $500,000, $1 million, sometimes $3 million to list. You must hire this market maker, which is going to use computers to create fake trades to pump up your coin or token, and then they would short. They would look at, they know the analysis, they can see where it's peaking, and then they would come into the market because you have to give the exchange a few million coins. They require that in the contract, and then they just dump that on the market at the highest price, and then everybody liquidates, and obviously they cover the short at a much lower price. So several exchanges, when analysis was made about these pump and dump schemes, the volume came from within the exchange. There was no new coins being deposited. You could see that these transactions came from inside the exchange, right? So you could very easily settle that these were not external actions, but internal actions.
So what you're saying here is not only was there front running going on or still going on, you're claiming that there is wash trading happening to push the price up, and then at the peak, whenever an exchange decides that, they then are shorting the tokens and suppressing the price, covering their short at the bottom.
They would dump the coins that were provided to them to do market making.
Got it.
Under the disguise of market making, really, it was just a profit enhancer. And these profit enhancers are $20, $30, $50 million a pop. And people say, well, I'm making money on BitMEX. Well, you're making money, but they're making much more money than you are. You know, look at the offices they just leased in Hong Kong. It's the most expensive building in the world, and they got a few floors there. And ask yourself, how can they afford that? Okay, what does him making billions of dollars in profit has to do with Satoshi, or helping the community, or decentralization, or cryptocurrency replacing fiat currencies? Binance, and how they announced they're going to make $1 billion this year. So when you think about where is that $1 billion comes from, it all comes from our pockets, one way or another. You might not see it, you might not understand it, but the fact that they're using your coins to front run transactions, to short, to leverage buy, to do all these things that they do when they see market movements, because they're trading on their own behalf, and part of that is and again, Binance is just one exchange. I'm sure that most of these guys, as long as they're operating in the non-regulated markets, they do all kind of nasty stuff that's not in the best interest of their customers.
So in this case, what you're pointing out too is that exchanges, whether or not specifically Binance, but some of the larger crypto exchanges that have a mass amount of coins under them, almost like a bank, for example, is lending out those cryptocurrencies to major hedge funds who want to speculate or trade on margin in a sense, or maybe invest in ICOs. And instead, on something like Celsius or one of these kind of like lending-based platforms where we can retain our crypto in a wallet and use it as collateral in the sense of making like a dollar-backed loan and everything, we can actually take that profit away from the exchanges and kind of put it in our pockets.
I immediately got excited that someone with some clout, was willing to stand up and call out these exchanges for unethical practices. I love him for calling out these cons in the current wild, wild west of crypto we live, and award him 1 diamond for doing so. If you're unfamiliar with front running, it basically means taking a personal position in an asset when you know a huge order is about to be placed on it. Using inside information is unethical and unlawful in the traditional trading world. Exchanges like Binance and others charge hefty listing fees, now up to $6 million, and a large deposit of coins or tokens from the project for market makers to take advantage of. A market maker is supposed to provide liquidity for the asset by buying and selling and maintaining a spread, where they profit from small percentages from a large number of orders. However, unfortunately, in the crypto world, which is largely unregulated, these exchanges have opportunistically capitalized on these gray areas. So the exchange has market makers which can ramp the asset or hype it up before listing through calculated rumors or news. Upon listing, the price gets pumped and they dump the asset on retail investors. VCs, market makers, CEOs, and exchanges all working together for sizable profits at the expense of their customers. It's quite disgusting. So I was excited to hear Mashinsky standing up for what's right, someone who himself, I'm sure, could have profited immensely from these kinds of practices. Celsius states it will never take a trading position against the interest of its lending and holding community. 1 diamond granted. So in a nutshell, what does Celsius aim to do?
With the banks checking your credit only for one reason. Do you know why they check your credit? To see how much they can screw you. It's true. If you have a high credit score, they're like, oh shit, they can go to any bank. We got to treat them real nice. But if you have a low credit score, they're like, oh man, we got to load this guy up and make sure we report him to the credit agency so no one else would lend him, because this way we can milk him for 20 years.
So we charge half or a quarter of what the other guys charge. Why? Because our focus is on growing a community. All the other guys' focus is on maximizing profit. They're just trying to fill their pockets, right? We take all the 5% we take as income by charging you interest, we distribute that to the proof of stake, to all the people who stake their coin. So most of the money that comes in to Celsius immediately goes out back to the community. Where with Salt and other companies, all the money they collect in interest, which is 3 or 4 times more than us, goes to the pocket of the rich people who own those companies.
Right.
The bank, financial institutions.
So in that respect, are you redefining the very construct of a bank to be more
Exactly.
a social bank? And if you...
It takes, today I made a deposit in the bank. The guy told me it will take 5 days to clear. And I laughed at him. I said, wait a second, this is a check. You can call the bank and see that the money is there. I know you will have this money in your account, the bank, today. It will clear in your network today. But you're going to hold it away from me for 5 days so you can make a profit on it. Right? So and this is a check for $68,000.
So it's about,
the bank is going to hold my money for 5 days just because I don't have an alternative.
JP Morgan, all the big banks, they want to use the blockchain to lower their own costs, but they don't want the average Joe to have access to move money for free between countries and really help the average person. So they make 95% of the value with your money, right? Okay. That's like legal robbery, right? And when they open 20 million fake bank accounts like Wells Fargo did, no one gets punished, no one goes to jail, nothing happens, right? So we're trying to disrupt all of that and replace it with a system that is for the people, by the people.
For these noble aims, I award Celsius with another glittery diamond. Celsius Network is a lending platform, but it shouldn't be confused at all with BitConnect required people's investment to be locked up, unable to be withdrawn for a long time, and they claim to have these trading algorithms, but in reality couldn't explain to anyone how these worked or how they made money. BitConnect only showed profits to people for a time due to its referral-based system, bringing in new users with fresh funds which, like every Ponzi scheme, would ultimately be exposed and fall apart. With Celsius, there's no lockup. People can remove their crypto at any time with no penalties, and they don't promise unrealistic profits, so they get 1 ruby. They claim they work to get the best interest rate as possible for those who stake their coins, which, extending the benefit of the doubt, I will believe, for now. It sometimes kind of feels like we're just supposed to take their word for it. I found many positives about the project, such as the underlying philosophy being in favor of the people and not a few privileged savvy insiders, as Alex would say, the 1% at the expense of the 99. I've heard Ken Nguyen say he believes cryptocurrency will eradicate world poverty.
There's hundreds of trillions of dollars of assets in the world. And so if in fact everything becomes tokenized or digitized, what does that world look like?
I would say what some deem to be somewhat controversial, but I think that a mature tokenized security world will effectively eradicate poverty around the world once and for all. Within a decade or two, I really think that the world will be so prosperous that we won't see extreme poverty anymore.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I do believe in the coming decades, the middle class will grow in the double digits. Alex often points out how banks lend out people's money and charge high interest rates, making a conservative average of 18% on your money, sometimes 25% or more. Even worse, I might add, they use fractional reserve banking. So when you deposit your money, they can loan it out to several borrowers, charging them as much interest as possible, of course, charging even higher interest to people with less money or worse credit scores. But banks pay as little interest as possible to those who keep their money there, and the top echelon make all the Skrilla.
Right? I'm not talking about the speculators. I'm talking about people from all over the world who called me and said, Alex, are you actually going to build what you're saying? Are you going to do that? Are you going to give an opportunity to the disadvantaged, to the people who don't have a chance, to the people who through our existing banking system cannot move ahead, cannot join the middle class?
Celsius doesn't penalize people who hold less crypto than, say, a whale, or who have worse credit scores. Big players and small players get the same rates. 1 diamond. When you think of the market size of the banking industry being in the trillions of dollars and the 2 billion plus unbanked people in the world, the prospect of the Celsius network providing fairer financial services to the marginalized becomes quite exciting. Of course, Celsius won't provide everything a bank does, such as loans on credit or safety deposit boxes for your hardware cold wallets, but for borrowing and lending, they're a superior option. Additionally, payments of crypto or USD are able to happen using CellPay with the Celsius app.
Go to any of your favorite coins that you have on deposit and basically send either dollars or crypto. So you can send somebody $20 or you can send them $20 worth of ETH, and they can redeem it even if they're not crypto holders without doing all the complex stuff that people normally have to do, like figuring out how to open a wallet, how to do everything. So really trying to simplify and bring the next 100 million people into the crypto community.
All you have to do is KYC. You download the app, you do KYC, meaning you just scan your passport or your driving license, you deposit coins, and you immediately get a loan. It's that simple, right? You don't have to have a bank account. You don't have to open a bank account. You don't have to sit for 4 hours and fill up forms and do all kind of stuff. So the use case for what I just described for loans is bigger than the entire crypto community put together. People can download it right now and they can start using the service. And what we really need is every one of your users to send a penny to 10 other people, right? Just to have them experience. People that do not have a crypto wallet. Because the minute they have that experience, they receive $20 or $5, they open it, it's there, and they can send it to someone else instantly. They will see, wow, why am I using a bank?
No one has put all that into a wallet and said, here's a wallet that works for you.
Personally, I believe that in order to disrupt the banking industry, you'll have to be able to provide loans on credit. So Celsius gets a turd, but an emerald for CellPay. Other pluses of Celsius include the utility of the token, where people are incentivized to hold it to earn interest, and they must buy it to use the platform. And the longer they hold it, the better their rates will be. Additionally, it allows borrowers the option to use it to prepay back loans at a discount. Mashinsky himself is invested in Celsius, which helps align his incentives to build the project. So for having excellent token utility use, one of the best I've seen, and being invested himself, we'll award 2 diamonds. One interesting fact is Celsius raised no money from VC investors at a time when ICOs were giving larger and larger allocations to VCs, some of them raising money exclusively from VCs by that time, giving them better deals who'd then just dump their coins on unsophisticated investors once listed on an exchange for a quick, damnable profit. Please tell me how such a scheme could result in a fair and wide distribution of the tokens. Tell me how such a system has decentralized long-term sustainability in mind by just nearsightedly using its community. While Celsius didn't raise from VCs, they did only accept from accredited investors, not retail investors, so they could have a diamond, but they get an emerald. Mashinsky likes to say they raised $50 million. It was actually $53.6 million at a time when more and more ICOs were beginning to fail to reach their soft caps at rapidly increasing rates, and doing it without VCs is quite impressive. It was the third largest ICO of Q1 2018. But is this a good thing? The more a project raises certainly doesn't make it more viable in the long run or more trustworthy. Look at Siren Labs. If the money raised isn't justified with a sound and reasonable business plan, then whoop-de-doo. Raising a lot should actually count against you. You shouldn't raise more money just because you can. So, for a hard cap that hasn't been transparently justified, and I deem a bit unreasonable, we'll give them a turd. Celsius custodian is BitGo, an institutional-grade custodian with a trusted reputation as the first and, I believe still currently, the only crypto custodian registered with the SEC since September 13, 2018. Celsius has a secure custody system in place with BitGo, requiring multiple signatures from both parties to move funds, all of which aren't currently lent out, are kept in cold storage. BitGo will also soon be launching a derivative-type token to be traded as Bitcoin, while the real Bitcoins are kept safe in cold storage. So, for having a secure custody plan in place, we'll award them with the Ruby. But for the fact that people don't hold their own crypto and must trust two third parties, we're left with no choice but to give them a Caca-log. Celsius was chosen by the UN to manage their crypto for their Sustainable Development Fund. Basically, Celsius is just doing what it does for anyone, but the UN uses them too. Stellar is a partner with Celsius also, but all that means is ICOs built on Stellar will use Celsius for their funds raised in a similar way as anyone could. These are small helps to Celsius, but announcing them as partners seems a bit overhyped and no big deal, as they could easily opt for another partner at any time. Celsius community members can borrow money against their crypto without it being considered a taxable event, which in certain scenarios could be really convenient for some people, although I personally try to avoid loans at all costs. They have no hidden fees, no termination or late fees, and no prepayment penalty. Now, the no late fees thing I'm not sure if I get. So, you can just be late on your payments with no recourse? It seems a bit odd, but 1 emerald for the effort. They have okay vesting periods for their team, but they're only okay. They're released in increments. First portion released 6 months after exchange listing, and the second portion after the price rises to $1.50 per token and stays there for 10 days. My question is, what? Only 6 months? 1 to 3 years would be much better. And only 10 days? How about keeping it over a certain price threshold for a year? This is not a short-term project, is it? So, I award 1 emerald for the lockup, which I feel I'm being overly gracious on, and a Caca-log for making the vestment period sound much better than it really is. Of all the crypto lending platforms, they have the best rates for lenders and borrowers, previously set in their white paper during the ICO at up to 9% with a minimum of 5%.
So how is this beneficial for you guys? How are you making money? Are you just making money from between the 5 and 9%?
Yeah, so we collect on average about 9% interest, and we're giving 5 or 5.5 back. The difference is what it costs us to operate the business. And the idea is that as the volume grows, we will be able to do loans at 8%, even 7%, and we'll hopefully be able to pay even 6%. I mean, if we have, not even 100 million users, if we have 2 or 3 million users, our cost of operation should be about 1%. So the gap between the bid and the ask here, or what we pay and what we charge, is going to be only 1%.
This has been updated now to up to only 7%. When I asked their Telegram admin why it was changed, he said, experience? As a matter of fact, many things they now say are much different than what the white paper said. So I guess you can say one thing during the token sale and a very different thing after you have $53 million. For example, they said they'd have several audits annually, and now they say, never mind, no audits. You can just look at the blockchain to verify everything. Oh, thanks. I thought you were appealing to young people outside crypto. Tell me, Who is going to be able to analyze that blockchain with your transactions in a meaningful way? For that, two turds. How money is earned and distributed to the community, Mashinsky has said, is published as an open book to the community. No other bank does that. But, as you will soon see, when you ask them details about things, they tend to play coy. Like when I asked him to justify the hard cap. In this industry, when people are researching a project and ask for transparency on budgets, treasury plans, burn rates, etc., projects should provide that stuff on a platter, expediently, with grapes and an assortment of cheese. As everyday regular folks and old fogies like myself, we should not expect anything less. Now, one thing I really like about Celsius, who's aiming to bring 100 million people into crypto as a milestone for adoption, is how users can send crypto or dollars to people who've never had any before just by sending them a link in email where they can then download and install the app to find they've been gifted or paid in crypto moolah. And they can then choose to stake it and earn a percentage on it, as opposed to keeping it in their wallet and not earning anything at all. You can literally send someone money without them even realizing what's going on under the hood on the blockchain. One juicy diamond for that. Celsius has a lending pool of about $2 million from the ICO, and this is added to from fees. These also being used to ensure lenders' funds in the event of a loan default. These are fees from loans, not from transactions, as there are no withdrawal or transaction fees, which sounds fine to me. 1 Ruby. The Celsius community continues to grow despite the bear market. Google Play shows 10,000 plus downloads, while the Celsius overview claims over 40,000 downloads. Perhaps this is a total from Google Play and the App Store, because this info isn't available to the public on the App Store. Scott Stornetta, the co-inventor of blockchain, whose Satoshi referenced 4 times in the Bitcoin white paper, serves as an advisor, the only crypto project he's ever served as an advisor.
We receive dozens, if not hundreds, of requests to join boards of for-profit enterprises. But we felt that this was a company where they had the right combination of technology, prior experience, and really a good heart in wanting to do the right thing for the blockchain community.
What I don't understand is how the co-creator of the blockchain, which is meant to make things private and trustless, would team up with a project that requires KYC AML and is not trustless at all.
My credibility with my community is everything, right? Because they trusted me not just with the coins, but for me to act in their best interest.
Nonetheless, given the upsides, I quickly fell in love with the project, although I wasn't quite ready to join the community until I'd asked some crucial questions. For a time, I became fairly active in their Telegram group to ask a question or two a day, and the guys there were always very willing to try to help and were very positive. In preparing this presentation, I can say they really went the extra mile in providing me with some additional up-to-date, more accurate information. 1 diamond for those guys. I wrote an open letter to moms about Bitcoin, but it's really for everyone, of which the Celsius network was actually the inspiration for. I wanted to explain Bitcoin and the opportunities in a project like Celsius to everyday people at the thought of disrupting our crooked banking system and doing my small part to spread the word and aid adoption. But my research wasn't complete. Before being able to recommend a crypto project to a mother with confidence and a good conscience, I'd have to be triply sure about it. I call this the mom filter. In wanting to know some particulars, which the guys in the Telegram group, while well-intentioned, didn't have the answers for, I thought, I must be able to find those answers in the white paper, which for this video I've now read carefully through a second time so as to be sure I didn't miss anything. So here's a few of the poopy things I see with Celsius. While it is crypto-tastic, you can earn interest on your crypto by staking with Celsius. There's what Andreas Antonopoulos likes to say,
if you control the Bitcoin keys, it's your Bitcoin. If you don't control the Bitcoin keys, it's not your Bitcoin. You are back to a master-slave relationship with a bank.
When you stake your coins with Celsius, you're entrusting it to third parties, Celsius and BitGo. The team and treasury token allocation is a bit high, 19% and 27% respectively. I like to see no more than 15% for a project that raises $40 million. When you add 2% for advisors, which I consider part of the team, this makes the team cut 21% of the tokens, plus an additional 19% of the treasury. And God knows what they'll actually do with that. 21% of 700 million tokens is 147 million tokens. In the second tier of investment release, when the token reaches $1.50, that's $220,500,000. 2 turds for the team allocation being too high and the lockup duration being too short. While I really like the fact that Alex says he refuses to list his tokens on an exchange that's going to hurt its investors and that doesn't have their best interest in mind, their whole business model is based on incentivizing hodling to decrease volatility while simultaneously making loans to short sellers, which Celsius actually executes themselves.
So later on this year, we're planning to also lend coins out to short sellers. Why do we want to do that, right? I mean, if we're for the community, why would we want to enable short sellers? Because today, short sellers make money and use exchanges, and you see none of that profit. So they're sitting in a segregated account, and that's why they feel comfortable doing that. And then we execute a transaction for them, so they don't actually touch the coins. They cannot transfer the coins. They cannot steal the coins. All they can do is give us a limit sell order. So they're saying sell Bitcoin at $9,000 and then cover the short position at $7,000, right? And for the duration of time that they hold these coins or they hold that position, they pay us interest. That interest is deducted from their cash deposit. If they made money, then their cash deposit is greater than what they contributed, greater than $500,000. If they lost money, we take those losses out of that $500,000 plus interest, and again distribute all of that to the people who stake.
It seems a bit two-faced to call out short selling when you're enabling it, especially when you claim one of your primary aims is to decrease volatility in crypto. Yeah, they're going to short anyway, and it's better the profits from that go to the community rather than the exchanges, but it's hypocritical, no matter how you slice it. It doesn't make it okay to enable short selling just because you charge people more to do it. Turd. Being as I couldn't get some of my question answered by the guys in the Telegram group, I asked Mashinsky on Twitter if there was anyone in their office who could answer my questions, and he graciously provided me a contact. That was December 11th. It's now January 3rd. So I sent my questions over along with a request to discuss a marketing partnership, and I didn't hear back for a little while. Later, this person was actually quite rude and indifferent towards me. Caca-log. So I mentioned on Twitter that I wasn't getting a response. I listed my questions publicly, and Alex himself said he'd answer my questions, which I could then post in a write-up I was working on. Well, excited about this opportunity, I added 2 more questions, and I've yet to receive an answer. I was told in an email from the office, Alex saw your Twitter messages and is drafting a response as we speak. Now, when I ask for an ETA, I get... I then sent him an earlier version of a transcript for this video. He replied saying he'd read it, and I never got a response. Seems he was playing a game in public on Twitter he doesn't intend to deliver on. Why won't he answer the nitty-gritty questions? Awarding 1 turd. I'm still waiting for answers to these following questions. How are governance decisions handled at Celsius? In the future, if changes need to be made, how will that be handled? What I'm getting at is, it seems the governance structure is centralized. By keeping your crypto with Celsius, you're trusting them. The whole idea of Bitcoin was to get rid of trusted third parties. Of course, Bitcoin is a currency and not a lending platform, and we do well to realize that in some instances with blockchain projects, a centralized entity must be involved to some degree. But I'd like to be assured that the governance of Celsius is not simply at their whim and could be changed at any time. ETHLend is a crypto lending platform which seeks to truly remove middlemen. Okay, so let's go out on a limb and give them the benefit of the doubt and assume Celsius is never going to do something against the interests of their customers. But what about after Mashinsky is gone? Is the CEO still calling the shots? What is in their bylaws? Other future lending platforms that can provide the same benefits with more decentralized form of governance, one with less centralized power, and one with more opportunity for the community to be involved in decisions, is going to appeal to an educated crypto user base much more. I feel this could be a disadvantage to Celsius should future movers seek to compete. What really bothers me about all this is Mashinsky talks about decentralization all the time.
We need to convince others. We need to educate and convince others to be able to differentiate between the people who really do stuff for the right reasons
and the people who are only doing it because they're trying to create even bigger centralized monopolies.
Doing everything for the people, by the people, is a decentralized platform that is a global platform in which every person in the world can participate.
Wait, so that anyone in the world can participate? That is not remotely close to what decentralized means. Celsius is not decentralized in any way at all. Its governance is completely ran by a central core of people. So I grant 2 Caca-logs for this deceptive use of terms. And speaking of a deceptive use of terms, their white paper says consensus. Whenever we issue credit or enable members to borrow coins, we will employ the consensus given to us by our members. What in the world does that even mean? No coin holders are voting or mining or providing consensus of any kind. So this sounds like they just decided to throw in a misleading blockchain buzzword which makes little sense here. Their admin told me this is why their white paper has now been archived. Well, Caca-log. What are the terms for liquidation for borrowers or loan defaults? Is it different for each scenario or is it standard? If standard, what are the terms and where can they be found? While with Celsius, every loan's collateralized with 120 to 150% of the coin's value in fiat. Note that before they said it was going to be 50% and leveraged loans would be possible. And Celsius says they seek to give borrowers and lenders the best rates possible based on the current market. We are just supposed to take their word for it. I mean, this is actually worse than a bank, where the terms are set in a contract. Celsius negotiating terms with borrowers and deciding on and changing the rates at any time, not based on an autonomous tamper-proof smart contract, but on whatever kind of deals they can get and whatever the market's doing. This is like putting in inputs into a centralized database controlled by a trusted third party with no assurances of any kind. Their white paper quotes their CTO as saying, "Our platform will be a unique combination of multi-blockchain nodes, auto trading on multiple exchanges, and a high-end user experience. All this is orchestrated by smart predictive algorithms designed to reduce rates and maximize profits to our members." Sounds nice. I would love to know how all this works and why is no one able or willing to provide this information. 2 Caca-logs. What was shocking to me is none of their admins could answer this question for me. All they could say is non-answers, like Celsius aims to keep their community's best interest in mind. Seriously? Are we just supposed to take their word for it? I mean, if you're a lending platform, the terms for liquidation or what happens when a person defaults on a loan or at what point their margin called, how all this works should be in big, bold print. But I can't find any real details about it anywhere in the white paper. Just vague assurances basically saying, trust us. Caca-log. When the Telegram admins couldn't give me a straight answer to this question, my heart basically sunk. It felt like I'd fallen in love with a woman to discover she's a kleptomaniac purse snatcher. A huge disappointment because this was a project I so sincerely wanted to believe in. Now, to be fair, I'm sure Celsius has some kind of liquidation mechanism, and I'd give them the benefit of the doubt again that they do a lot to forewarn people when this is happening. And since the loan's collateralized, they can begin to pay off the loan with the collateral. But shouldn't the details of this information be readily available upon request? Their overview paper says terms are determined on a case-by-case basis with our trading desk. Well, I'd like to know what in the world that means. It sounds very vague and kind of scary, to be frank. I would love to know, and even more, I would like to know why something so basic wouldn't be found anywhere in the white paper. It's just odd. I asked, why did Celsius choose to raise $50 million instead of, say, 30 or 40 million? Just looking for justifications of the allocation and the budget. I consider anything over $40 million a bit high for an ICO. I mean, you can do a lot with $30 million. There can be exceptions to this for long-term investments as opposed to seeking a good ROI on a shorter-term investment, but all I wanted was a justification for the funds. Currently, it no longer matters from a flipper standpoint as you can get sell tokens at a steal at the current price of around 3 cents on IDEX. The ICO prices were 20 cents in the pre-sale and 30 cents in the main sale. They advertise having 650 million tokens, but now CoinMarketCap says 700 million. So where do those extra 50 million tokens come from? Magic? Their admin tells me it should have always been 700 million. So many errors have been found in this now archived white paper. I guess the other 50 million tokens came from the Treasury. Tell me, what kind of project raising over $50 million can't get the details of their white paper right? Turd. How are interest rates determined? I'm aware that Celsius tries to get the best rates possible, but are these just negotiated on a case-by-case basis and determined by the market and then input into a smart contract? It would seem in this case, the smart contracts aren't immutable nor autonomous. If you can change the inputs for a smart contract at any time from day to day, it makes me wonder what is the point of even using a smart contract, if you're really using one at all. Does the smart contract assure fair rates, or does it just handle trading on the exchanges? The only answers I've received to this are vague non-answers. Turd. Are you concerned, Mr. Mashinsky, that Cell could be deemed a security? Upon discussion with a couple crypto YouTubers who'd interviewed Mashinsky, a couple of which also invested in the pre-sale, and whose opinions and analysis I generally respect, and whom I'll keep anonymous here, said to me, ironically, all the factors which make Cell great, all the reasons people would want to hold, are also the same features which make it labeled as a security. So they struggled with exchange listings despite being a strong project with a strong community. I personally doubt it's going to get listed. They blatantly promise returns on their investment. It's like front and center on their website. I don't see how it isn't a security, to be honest, because it is about supporting a crypto bank. Will Cell be viewed as a security by the SEC? I think that's a fair question, don't you?
People say, well, are you a utility token or are you a security? If you look at everything that the token does, it creates the utility of transfer of value and incentivizing the community to do the right thing by all the membership. And that's, like I said in the beginning, Celsius is all about what's best for the coin holder. That's the only thing we focused on.
I read that they suspended their plans to pay out interest in Cell, I believe in aims to stay compliant as a utility token. Plus, Celsius is registered in New York, which is the strictest place you could possibly try to run a crypto company. So I think this speaks in favor of Celsius. So we'll let them have an emerald. While the use cases of the Cell token are good, given the ambiguity of what SEC decisions will be in the future, it does seem very risky. And one is forced to wonder if this has had anything to do with their trouble getting listed on an exchange, and Mashinsky just might be attacking the exchanges to distract from what's really going on. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and award neither a precious stone or a poop. Of course, they, many others, and I, are hopeful that the SEC will update its archaic, non-relevant laws to this current crypto system to allow for not only a new asset class, which has never before existed, but provide new investment opportunities for retail investors. The SEC in the past year has alluded to this being a possibility a couple times, while still exuding a strict and threatening, although somewhat ambiguous, persona against violators of gray areas. Most of us are aware that many utility token projects simply created utility tokens to avoid getting in trouble with the SEC. But, as William Mugayar points out, there are viable use cases for a utility token where a security token would not prove to be helpful. In many startup situations, a utility token is much more suitable than a security token for building a community. I myself am very optimistic and hopeful that utility tokens will ultimately be used successfully in many platforms, but anything can happen. In time, I hope the SEC will realize utility tokens are a unique and worthwhile experiment and make fair provisions for it, but at this time there is a lot up in the air. I asked Celsius, what would you say to people who say things like,
I want to help people understand the importance of holding the private keys to their own money so that we are able to decentralize money on this planet?
I'd like to know how Mashinsky personally feels about this and if he has a plan to make Celsius require less trust in the future. Alex says people should remove their coins from exchanges. So, while keeping your coins in your own wallet might be best for those who want complete sovereign control over their assets, holding them in a Celsius wallet as they are being used for you is better than keeping them on an exchange where they can be used against you. I cannot say that I don't think there's no possibility Celsius will do well and overcome the hurdles that stand in their way. While it seems much of how the business is run, its governance being centralized, that doesn't mean it still isn't a superior option to current traditional loans from banks, and it doesn't mean you couldn't do well by holding your crypto with them, and it certainly doesn't mean cell tokens won't have their day shooting to the moon at some point, and the team can cash in on those hundreds of millions of dollars. It doesn't mean that Celsius won't be the killer app to bring in 100 million users. I hope it is. Many unlearned people could care less about the centralization issue and how the trading desk interacts with the smart contracts. When assessing a project, we have to look at the community and their openness and responsiveness to questions, their ability to answer hard questions openly, competently, and with a good attitude. My main concerns are the centralized governance, not having readily available information for loan terms or margin calls, seeing no real justification for a hard cap, and that makes me wonder what their current burn rate is and how they're managing the funds raised from the ICO in this bear market. So the Treasury has $20 million set aside from the crowd sale. I assume this is for an event that there aren't enough users already staking enough to fund a large loan. Well, will this use of these Treasury funds be transparent? 19% of the Treasury will be to reward new team members as they grow. Alex says everything with Celsius is transparent, but apparently they don't like it when you ask them these kinds of questions. So while I wish Celsius the best, and I believe they mean well, kind of, I think they got some things wrong and there's poop floating around in their centralized pool. I'm still waiting for an answer to my questions if anyone wants to set me straight on anything. My final rating of this project, which demands trust in middlemen, talks about decentralization all the time but is not at all decentralized, says one thing in their white paper and another in reality, raised too much money and won't justify it, is giving too many tokens to their team too soon, says they'll answer your questions but then hides, requires you to leave your crypto in someone else's keys, calls out exchanges for shorting when their whole business model is based off of profits to enable funds to short sale. 19 floaters among 16 precious stones of various value. Goes to show we should be very careful about falling in love with any crypto project too fast. Good luck to everyone out there in crypto land in 2019, and remember, do your due diligence and always ask the hard questions. In a space that's highly unregulated, we have to help each other hold to ethical standards like services that are really permissionless, fairly and widely distributed, trustless, and censorship resistant. We need to care about things like centralization and trust. Celsius could easily be forced by regulating bodies to censor people's transactions. All community members are required to undergo KYC AML, just something to consider. I don't see Celsius as being able to become trustless unless some serious inner workings and plans were completely revamped. Or perhaps someday, somehow the middlemen will be removed. That would be a great improvement. Let's close with Ken Wynn speaking on middlemen. Peace.
Coming from the fund asset management background, most people aren't aware that most people are aware of credit card companies taking just a transaction fee, being that middleman and building, billion-dollar industry or trillion-dollar industry. Fund administration, the same thing. Accounting, pretty much anything that requires someone to validate and be the trusted party in the middle. I think that trusted party has permeated every single aspect of our life, and certainly in business. I think I can't think of more than one or two aspects of businesses that doesn't involve a middleman. If you remove that, you're gonna make it that much cheaper, and if you can help people transact at smaller dollar amounts, you're gonna increase the flow of capital. That combination, an increased pool of liquidity, along with less cost and less inefficiency, naturally will give rise to, will be such a boost to the economy and to the world in a way that no other technology, in my opinion, has been able to deliver.
According to Metcalfe's law, the effect of a ninja clan is proportional to the number of ninjas squared. So be sure to join the clan fam and click that subscribe button, ring the bell icon, and tweet at me. Till next time, long Bitcoin and short the banks.
This video was produced Strictly for my ninjas.